annually. Be bringing people to come and school here. It won't take us more than 5 years to get there. The reason why it's not happening is because the wrong people are running the system, and they are afraid that if we run the system properly, those loopholes that they are exploiting to put public money in their private pockets will be blocked.
Whether 5 or more years, relevant agencies and government must show commitment to the restructuring of education in Nigeria to better equip the youths so they too in turn can leave the right legacy if Nigeria is truly to live up to its status as the giant of Africa. Felicity Ezewike, Plus TV Africa.
Many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines. I am Ife Arono. That a fight against corruption is a battle for the souls of the different countries in Africa and is a battle that must be won. The Nigerian president said he has implemented lists to get their facts right before going to press. He recalled that the press had last week reported that the commission froze the account of the PDP vice presidential candidate Peter Obi, a report he said was not true. Orilade said the EFCC has to Obunna. He wondered why Atiku's son was linked to the investigation of Theodore Oji's son and appealed to journalists to always cross-check their facts before publication. Well, President of the Senate, Senator Bukola Saraki, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Yakubu Dogara, on Monday said vote buying is a threat to the nation's democracy. Speaking at a public hearing in Abuja, they called for urgent action by stakeholders, especially security agencies, to check the menace before the 2019 general election. Saraki said the country was in a delicate situation. Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says although the Electoral Act Amendment Bill rejected by President Buhari would have addressed controversies that trailed the 2015 exercise, especially the place of technology and others that the amendment seek to address, Nigeria can still have good elections with the extant act. INEC's Director of Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi, who spoke to reporters in Abuja yesterday, explained that the Electoral Act 2010, as amended in 2015, would be the operative law for Etiosa Federal Constituency in Lagos. Olukayode Awokoya said this in an interview with Plus TV Africa. He said the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2018 has a lot of positives, and he urged the National Assembly to override the president and pass the bill into law. Let's take a listen.
Fortunate that something that is meant for the good of the country always ends up being politicized. Not just the Electoral Act, you see other issues of the country. It's a question of which pitfalls.
And previous elections,
yes. So meant to address some of the pitfalls to give us a better election. So certainly it's going to be an argument, but I think the proposed act has more of good than bad for the country.
The Senate will sit in plenary tomorrow and probably debate this as to whether to override the assent. Do you think if they have the power to override it, they should go ahead, or it might be too dicey, knowing the kind of volatile politics?
They have the powers, they have the rights, and I will support an override in the interest of the...
Olukayode Awokoya in a chat with Plus TV Africa. And as President Muhammadu Buhari's refusal to sign the Electoral Act Amendment 2018 into law continues to generate reactions, we had a phone-in interview with legal practitioner and public affairs analyst Onyekachi Ubani, and he shared his thoughts on the president's excuse that passing a new bill with the election so close could create some uncertainty about the legislation to govern the process. He also highlighted some parts of a bill he said needed legislative action.
For a man who is clearly in a hurry to ensure that the law is passed and then disseminated to the populace, will it be right for you to wait until the 30th day for you now to withdraw that, citing the issue of creating uncertainty? So even on the logic that he has preferred, he has defeated his logic because there is he wasn't in a hurry. If he had wanted a situation where the bill will passed on time, and that knowledge, made available to all the people that are in the country, so that they will know the electoral process, electoral laws that will actually guide the process. He would have hurriedly, signed whatever reason he wanted to sign for refusing assent in order for the National Assembly to correct, so that the law can be made disseminated to the people. So I don't see it as a valid reason for that withholding of assent.
On the argument that making the bill law might disrupt the electoral process already put in place by INEC, he says, advised that the commission be allowed to speak for herself.
I don't think any person is competent to speak on behalf of INEC. INEC has never complained. In fact, I tell you this, INEC has already started preparing election of 2019 with regards to the amendment that is already in place in mind. And that is why they asked for such a humongous amount that was appropriated for them. And that's why they even said that there will not be incidents form. Incidents form mean, actually resorting to manual. They have already prepared their mind towards the electoral amendment that is already in place. There was no time INEC complained that they are not conversant with the process, or they run into a hitch, in implementing the new law. So if anyone is speaking on behalf of INEC, I don't think that is the proper thing to do. INEC has never complained that they don't have any problem with implementing that amendment bill if it is assented to by the president.
The lawyer also reacted to suggestions by Senator Biodun Olujimi that the Senate would this week begin the process to override President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to withhold his assent to the bill.
They have the right under the Constitution to override, but the problem is not finding the requisite number of members of the House that can do that. It requires two-thirds majority. Now, if people are playing partisan politics and they begin to publish your loyalty to their political party, do you think they will, in all fairness, being strong enough and being bold enough to overrule their president? That already, something that, is within the realms of speculation. But I tell you, it is something that is constitutionally allowed. If a president refuses assent, the members of the House, both legislative chambers, can override the veto of the president.
Well, that was Barrister Onyeka Ubani speaking to Plus TV Africa via phone call. Well, the Catholic Church has banned Reverend Father A.G. Kembaka of Adoration Ministries, Enugu, Nigeria, from endorsing politician Democratic Party vice presidential candidate Peter Obi over their recent altercation. The bishop insisted that Mbaka must adhere to the instructions of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria, CBCN, and do not get involved in the endorsement set aside December 10th of every year as World Human Rights Day. With this year's commemoration of the Human Rights Day, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called attention to how far the world has come in the area of regard for basic human.
A right to life, a right to democracy, a right to social security, the right to play, the right to food and shelter for all, a right to education, and freedom of expression and freedom of thought. These are some of the human rights engrafted in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations in 1948.
For 70 years, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has been a global beacon, shining a light for dignity, equality and well-being, and bringing hope to dark places. The rights proclaimed in the Declaration apply to everyone, no matter our race, belief, location, or other distinction of any kind. Human rights are universal and eternal. They are also indivisible. One cannot pick and choose among civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights.
And as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the 70th year of this milestone of the Human Rights Declaration, a member of the League of Nigerian Journalists, Yakubu Mohammed, who x-rays Nigeria's journey towards the full adherence to the basic human rights, says Nigeria's government has over the years shown little respect for the rights of its citizens.
Today, people don't willingly go to prison anymore. People are not detained just willy-nilly anymore. But then, the fact that the circumstances of our economy, the imperatives of governance, and so on and so forth, have made it difficult for people to enjoy these rights in full someness as they wish it to be. So yes, that we do not have these rights as a matter of right. We don't have them now because people can have 3 square meals in a day. security agencies have not been up and doing to ensure that these rights are guaranteed in practice. While they are there in theory, you go to bed, you are not sure that you can sleep with your two eyes.
During the militancy campaign in the African country, the human rights group said the examination in 2010 into cases of war crimes and crimes against humanity during Boko Haram's campaign, which had begun a year earlier. The statement came days after Bensouda stressed that there appeared to be a tangible prospect of proceedings against Boko Haram members but not against troops, since the Nigerian authorities tend to deny any allegation. Amnesty complained that Nigeria's government has not conducted any relevant proceedings into the atrocities, war crimes and crimes against humanity perpetrated by both Boko Haram militants and the Nigerian forces. Well, the Hanukkah celebration, which is a celebration of light by the Jews and the Israelites, held its first ever celebration in Lagos. Here is more from our correspondent, Susan Jasper.
Hanukkah is the celebration of the Festival of Lights by the people of Israel between November and December every year. This celebration commemorates the deliverance of the Jews from their Greek-Syrian oppressors after the attack of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BC.
Hanukkah is a very interesting miracle because it wasn't a situation where certain times Jewish people were persecuted, the evil people. They didn't want the Jews to practice the Torah. They took over the temple, and what they did was they didn't burn the temple down. They just came around and they knew that to desecrate, to make it no longer useful in the Jewish sense, all they had to do was break the seal. There was a holy seal on each barrel of oil, and they smashed the barrels of oil. And the miracle of Hanukkah was as follows. So when the Jewish people came back to the temple, they were able to find one jug which was untouched and remained pure. Now, this small jug of oil was naturally only able to last for 1 day. And God made a special, unbelievable miracle that this one jug of oil, which had the capacity to last for 1 day, lasted for 8 complete days.
Lagos was not left out as the first ever celebration took place at the Mega Plaza as part of the mission to spread the light all around the world.
We are lighting candles every year to celebrate that miracle. We also eat a lot of fatty oil fried food to symbolize the miracle of the oil and the lamp. And tonight we are celebrating it this way for the first time in Africa. And we're very happy. This is our way to appreciate Nigeria.
The Jewish community in Nigeria is experiencing significant growth, and the lighting of the menorah brings the Jewish community to limelight.
Jewish community in Nigeria or in Africa is growing, is bubbling. Like this event, Rabbi says, is the first time they are coming up public. That's to show you that over time now, light has succeeded in coming out public. So that's the strength of what light could do, and that is one of the things that encouraged me.
As part of the celebration of oneness and light, members of the Christian community were there to join in this celebration.
Christianity, Judaism, and even Islam all have...
Well, it's time for a quick break. Stay tuned for more news when we are back. Glad to have you back. And now European Union prolongs sanctions against President Joseph Kabila's chosen successor, Ramazani Chowdhury, just 2 weeks before a historic election in the DR Congo. Well, this and other African stories are in our African News.
Ramazani Chowdhury and 13 other people. Chowdhury was sanctioned by the European Union last year for obstructing DRC's electoral process and a crackdown against protesters angry over the long-delayed vote. The decision taken by European Union foreign ministers in Brussels could be reviewed in the light of and following the elections scheduled for December 23rd. It could be DRC's first peaceful democratic transfer of power. The decision fears that Kabila, who has ruled since 2001, will assert power behind the scenes if Chowdhury wins. Somali's MPs, about 100 of them, have backed a motion of no confidence against President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo. They accuse him of undermining the constitution by signing a secret deal, they say, to unite Somalia with Ethiopia and Eritrea. The next stage is for the Speaker to set a date for the debate in Parliament. Relations have tautened between leaders of the three Eastern African nations who have held a series of talks since Ethiopia's reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was appointed in April. The World Health Organization says Ebola vaccinations will soon begin in South Sudan as the country is at a very high risk in the current outbreak based in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. A statement says South Sudan's health minister will begin vaccinating some health workers and other frontline workers in the capital, Juba, on December 19th. No Ebola cases have been reported in South Sudan or any of the DRC's neighbors in this outbreak, which is now the second deadliest in history. Vaccinations began earlier in Uganda. More than 40,000 people have received the experimental but promising Ebola vaccine in the outbreak. The World Health Organization statement says more than 2,000 doses have been allocated to South Sudan. DRC's health minister says the outbreak has almost reached 500 cases, 494 including 446 confirmed, with 235 confirmed deaths. More than 150 nations have signed a landmark international agreement on managing migration. The United Nations Pact, which is not legally binding, was adopted at a meeting in Marrakesh in Morocco, but it has been shunned by some countries, including the United States, Australia, and at least 6 European Union nations. Its objectives include the integrated management of borders and giving migrants access to basic services. Critics, however, fear it will increase migration, but the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the pact was based on cooperation and regulating migration. All 193 United Nations members, except the United States, finalized the pact in July.
The news continues after the short break.
I am gap-toothed black girl, back corner of class, scribbling left-handed poetry on blank paper. Save the school's curriculum for later. I am overflowing tales by moonlight, that informal education. Trickling off the tip of my grandmother's tongue, you will find my mother's tongue here. A fast and fluent Yoruba, crisscrossing English, hidden messages in prose and proverbs call it Yorubanglish. And I am the miracle of melody, nestled deep in the groove of a rich high life. This heartbeat, this is who I am. Heritage Bank, your timeless wealth partner.
A Siberian policeman described as Russia's most prolific mass murderer in modern times has been given a second life sentence. We have details of this and more in our foreign package.
At least one person has been killed and hundreds of thousands left without power supply following a heavy snowstorm that swept through the U.S.'s southeastern states. A state of emergency has been declared in North Carolina, with some areas recording as much as 0.5 meters of snow over the weekend. A search is underway for a driver whose vehicle was found in a river. Meanwhile, thousands of flights were also cancelled across the region. The snowstorm was expected to move off the coast on Monday, although the National Weather Service warned it would continue to be a dangerous system. State police said that almost 60 crashes were recorded, with the number rising to 500 in North Carolina between midnight and 11 a.m. local time on Sunday. And moving on to the latest update from the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, I can't breathe. Those were the last words uttered by the journalist during his murder at the Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul. And that's according to a source briefed on the investigation into the killing of the Washington Post columnist. The source, who has read a translated transcript of an audio recording of Khashoggi's last moments, said it was clear that the killing on October 2 was the execution of a premeditated plan. Records noticed the sound of Khashoggi's body being dismembered by a saw, as the alleged perpetrators were advised to listen to music to block out the sound. Turkish officials also believe that some calls were placed to senior figures in Riyadh, briefing them on the progress made. This is the fullest account of the transcript that has so far been published.
Up next is our business news.
And in business, the National Bureau of Statistics on Monday released the nation's gross domestic product report for the third quarter of 2018, recording a 1.81% growth in real terms, higher than the 1.5% recorded in the previous quarter. I spoke with Johnson Chukwu of Cowrie Asset Management as he shared his thoughts on the result.
I believe an improvement over the previous quarter GDP. Second quarter of this year, GDP was only 1.5%. We see an improvement to 1.81%. But even compared to the third quarter of last year, it's still an improvement from 1.17% that we reported in the third quarter of 2017. But having said that, I think it's also consoling that the GDP growth rate of 1.81% we recorded in the third quarter of this year was largely driven by the non-oil sector, which grew by 2.32% against the oil sector that actually contracted by 2.91%. So it's actually positive that the non-oil sector has begun to drive the GDP performance of the country, unlike the previous periods when it was largely an oil sector driven.
And that's all on business news on this hour. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa is our roundup on entertainment and sports. We'll be back in a moment.
In entertainment, media personality Bolanle Olukone and ex-Big Brother Nigeria housemate Toby Bakare have been selected to host the 13th edition of the Future Awards Africa, which is slated for the 16th of December. American singer Beyonce arrived in India on Sunday, the 9th of December 2018, to perform at the pre-wedding celebration of Aisha Ambani, who is the daughter of Mukesh Ambani, who has remained India's wealthiest man since 2008. Beyonce was seen arriving at the Maharana Pratap Airport for her performance to an audience which included former First Lady of America Hillary Clinton, Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas, who also recently got married. And that's it on entertainment. The best in sports coming up right after this. I'm Takumbo Taiwo.
In sports, the Professional Footballers Association, the PFA, has backed Raheem Sterling following the alleged racial abuse he suffered during Manchester City's loss to Chelsea. After the match, the English forward, through his Instagram account, accused the British media of helping to fuel racism with the way they portrayed young black footballers. Simon Pound, the head of equality and diversity for the PFA, said, and I quote, "Raheem has made a stand by speaking out, and we stand shoulder to shoulder with him against the discrimination of which he speaks," end of quote. The PFA, through a statement, called for clubs to take the strongest possible action for fans found guilty of racially abusing players, and also commended Sterling for his professionalism and statements against racism. And that's it on Sports Updates. I'm Samson Oloide.
Thanks, Samson, and that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news and updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We're on channel 308 on Star Times. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us again. I am Ife Arono. Have a pleasant day.
Egro toto be we no wa ye yoro do. O by pharmacy ne say go we go to pharmacy.
The shelf life for anything liquid doesn't last more than 2 days.
There's no drug that is a bullet drug that does everything.
I'm going to see the women who are going to tell us more about the herbs and what they use the herbs to treat.
I
have been selling these herbs.
I'm here to speak with another traditional medical specialist who claims to be proficient in the treatment of infertility. Join me as I go talk to her inside.
People refer to me as the one who can do what the doctors cannot do. I treat men and women who find it difficult to have children of their own. I also help treat women whose children die at birth. I prevent such from reoccurring. For men with low sperm counts, I make marks on their penises with a sharp blade and then apply my concoctions on their cords. This will enable them give birth to as many children as they want. Actually, some of these treatments require occultic powers. Not at all. My preparations do not have any side effects. After taking a cup of this concoction, the patient will have a mild stomach disturbance, after which he will be okay.
Some questions ensued in my mind. Do any of these herbal medicines work? Are they really curative? Can they provide what orthodox medicines can't? Although many doubt the efficacy of this kind of medication, a lot of people also give positive testimonies to their use of herbal medication.
When I started to have problems with it, it would take me about 6 hours before I can urinate. Painful 6 hours. I want to urinate, but the urine does not come out. I will be crying. At this time, I was not myself. I was between 8 and 11. I was afraid. I don't want to do operation. In that December, when the Luke doctor, they went to strike, and there was no treatment again. So I had to come back home.
I was curious to know if he got any treatment before the hospital went on strike.
I was tested whether I have enough pressure in my bladder to get the urination. I was tested to see whether my kidney is working, and that kidney test took almost 1 day. They inserted cardigan for me again, just to ease my urination. But that did not solve the problem of prostate itself.
Having left the hospital as a result of the strike, he said he had to get an alternative means of treatment, which was in form of herbal medication from an
After 1 week, I started to take the medication. It will reduce to 6 hours, 4 hours, second day or third day, 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes. And one day I just found that the urine just came out. And since then, I have no problem. I've been coming out. I'm happy to say that I'm still living. I'm not dead.
After listening to this testimony, I was eager to see the herbal practitioner who treated him. He claimed to have trained in China, South Africa, and is registered under the Lagos State Traditional Medicine Board.
I got my ingredients in Oyo State, while my factory is in Lagos State.
When asked how he diagnoses his patients, he had this to say.
The first thing is that
if there are more or street hawkers with little or no professional training, it was expedient to speak with the buyers of these herbal concoctions by the roadside who buy from roadside sellers and hawkers. These roadside sellers have not gone through the proper training and do not package their herbs. I took a long road trip to Ajah, Lagos in Nigeria to meet with Mama Okpe and some of her customers I met there. I saw an array of herbal concoctions and was curious to know what they were, what they do, and how she purifies them.
I treat JD, waist pain, malaria, typhoid, gonorrhea, infection, and ulcer. This here, infection, and ulcer. This one for infection. This is malaria and typhoid for the ulcer. This is JD and waist pain. This is Afator with manpower. This is typhoid.
According to her, she adds either alcohol or water to her concoctions and gave her reasons.
Agbo no dey spoil, but the one why they put hot, they stay long past the one when they put water. But the water own, you get something where you go put inside, say na water, so that if you reach like 3 months, 6 months, no go do anything. They call am kavura pelebe. When I buy this agbo, when I go carry am from our children, they carry am from. All the sand wey dey inside, I don't take boiling water to wash it before I put it inside ragolis.
Her very excited customers were quite eager to share their experiences.
I can't drink JD because of my wife. That yesterday night, me and my wife fight because of that thing. My wife can't touch that thing. The thing, you know, wake up. You understand? Then I can't say, make no worry. He say, tomorrow, I can't drink JD. Now he carry me come here. Since that time where I carry gonorrhea, I first go hospital first. You understand? After I go hospital first, the thing relieve me, but the thing, you know, go. Now I can't make that, mama. Now you can't give me another agbo. After I use the agbo, everything don't go.
I love to take agbo almost every evening. There was a time I was feeling down for days and I've been constantly taking the agbo. But I think the typhoid was so, it has eaten deep into my body. It didn't work out. Like I left this place, I took the agbo. Instead of it to suppress the pains, and it got worse and I had to visit hospital immediately. So it's just like a preventive measure before it eats deep to the body.
There was a time I was feeling ill, so then I have not started taking agbo. I had to go down to a chemist because I was having headache. The chemist worker just had to give me a Panadol. After giving me the Panadol, I wasn't feeling too well. It was as if I took something illegal like tramadol. And since then, I haven't been taking English medicine.
There is no fake agbo, but there is fake drug. All herbs, they are just nothing but plant extracts. And I prefer this to drug in the sense that drug, after extraction, they still need to add preservatives, which they have effect on the body as well on their own. But this one is direct plant extracts.
In Africa here, we have a lot of mosquitoes. I don't have to let the malaria break me down if I run down to Mama's place to take agbo. So I usually come here twice a week to have those prevention. All these are roots soaked in an alcohol, you understand, for you to take it. Why would I want to take an NSC that is not medicinal when I can always take this that is medicinal?
Although Mama Okpe has 10 years experience, she said she still had rules regarding her sale of the herbal concoctions.
Some they carry small pikin come here. They say maybe my pikin no, it never shits when I born am like 8 days. I go say carry and go hospital. Cannot treat it. Because if I give am nagbo now, anything can happen.
To my surprise, I met corporately dressed men who expressed their satisfaction with the intake of these herbal concoctions locally known as agbo, but refused to be interviewed. Some of them shared their reservations.
The problem I just have with herb is there is no particular dosage. You can take overdose and you can take below dosage.
In most cases, we just get to the agbostones and we've been served. We don't know the kind of water that is being prepared with, but I've been treated with it, and it works.
More clarity was necessary on various types of herbal practitioners, such as the woman interviewed in Makoko, Mama Ope, Dr. Yusuf, and others seen selling by the roadside.
Nowadays, medicine have gone beyond the local one. In as much that doctors can call themselves pharmacy and medical. We have in our one, we have ethnomedicine and ethnopharmacy. Ethnomedicine are the people that use herbs to cure ailment, while ethnopharmacy are those that use herbs that are herb sellers and not everywhere.
With all of the information gotten, I was curious to know the opinion of orthodox doctors on this subject.
Herbal products have been with us for centuries, and our forefathers have used those drugs before modern medicine came into being. And most people have used these drugs, gotten better. But the big challenge is that who administer these drugs, who diagnoses this problem in the first place, the dosages, the frequency, the impurities, and all that.
He didn't disintegrate the efficacy of the herbal medications, but was concerned about the crude content.
Though these herbal drugs may have their own efficacy depending on what they are treating, but they are also contaminants. For instance, if somebody picks up a plant to use to treat, is it the whole plant that is important in the therapy or some part of the plants? So impurities and contaminants to be removed from this so that the adverse effects or side effects would not be included in the treatment of this.
Having spoken to Dr. Ekre, I went on to see a pharmacognosist at the University of Lagos. I'm here at the Faculty of Pharmacy in the University of Lagos to consult with Dr. Dada, who has been a pharmacognosist for over 20 years.
Herbal medicine generally is more of preventive than being curative.
When I asked her how her patients are being diagnosed, she said she uses a quantum magnetic resonance body analyzer to test her patients.
A lot of people are sick, they don't know. When they come, we assess their health status. We have an equipment to that effect that we use, which is quantum resonance. It will let us know the states, the different organs of the body are, so that we know the type of help or assistance that we can advise and give them. And the herbal drug they can use, we let them know. We don't force it on them. So if they willingly agree, then they buy from us.
Inquiring about how and where they get their ingredients, we were taken to the university's botanical garden, where some of their ingredients were gotten.
We have located where some of them are growing in our environment, and we go there to collect, especially in Akoka. Many of them are growing within the botanical garden. This one is the Tamiliana catappa. It's one of the ingredients for our antioxidant C. It has a lot of antioxidant properties. Then this one is Imbodia levis, one of the ingredients for the anti-stress. We collect them fresh here before we take them to the lab to process. The ones that we cannot get within the environment, we have what we call collector that we send to go and collect wide for us. They go to where they are growing naturally and collect. The type of purification we do is you make sure there is no microbial contamination, you make sure that there is no foreign substances there, and the official level that is permissible is always stated. Once it is within that permissible level, your drug is okay, and that is what we call standardization. Our products are as a result of research. We do all these things, we use animals, so we don't use arbitrary dose, because dosage is very important too in whatever you are doing.
She also showed me some of their locally made herbal teas.
We have stress tea because of the environment we are, Lagos, where you have a lot of stress, and that is one of our fast-moving products. Anti-stress tea. We have antioxidants. Antioxidant is very important in any living thing because it prevents a lot of disease from occurring. So that's another very moving product we have. Antioxidants. We have brain tonic. A lot of people, especially with age, are losing memory. So this enhances memory.
However, she re-emphasized on not recommending herbal medicine for emergency cases.
We don't usually use herbal remedy for emergency. When you have emergency, the orthodox medicine may be more appropriate. But if it is not emergency, I will go for the herbal. And the reason is that herbal medicine are naturally made, and they go well. They are friendly with the body because being nature to nature, you don't have much side effects as you normally have with orthodox medicine, because orthodox medicine are synthesized and produced in the laboratory using different chemicals. And many of these chemicals, people have discovered that they are causing a lot of side effects.
Nigeria spends about $8 billion annually on the importation of vehicles. Although in the 1970s, passenger cars and commercial trucks were assembled in Nigeria, but this didn't last for a very long time, as production capacity in the capital-intensive plants began to drop drastically by late 1980s, leading to losses for the assembly plants. Commercial truck plants were even more affected, with market demand declining from 36,000 in 1977 to 14,440 by 1981. Another local assembly plant also saw its annual production drop from 29,300 in 1981 to less than 1,000 in 1989 and in 2005. The once booming sector, which created mass jobs and economic growth, was largely affected by corruption, epileptic power supply, government inconsistency, and a drop in oil prices. This led to an increase in importation of vehicles into the country. In a bid to reduce importation and boost local production, the government set an automotive policy in 2014. But this has not been very effective, as reports from the National Bureau of Statistics showed that Nigeria imported over 1.2 million new and used vehicles into the country between 2012 and 2017. Plus TV Africa spoke with local importer Mr. Kunle on the effects of this policy and prospects for growing the automobile industry in Nigeria.
Thank you for having us at yours. So how long have you been in the business of importation of vehicles, and how easy has it been for you?
I've been in the importation of cars for the past 15 years. And when I want to talk about being easy, bringing cars from abroad,
Tokumbo vehicles, that's fairly used vehicles, we've imported over 1.2 million cars into the country, and then annually we spend $8 billion on an average, right, on importation of vehicles, which is very high. What would you say the reason for these high figures have been?
Nigeria don't produce car. If Nigeria produce car, I don't believe we'll be spending so much money on bringing car from other country to our country. So if Nigerian government can be able to produce Nigerian-made car, I believe bringing car from abroad will reduce.
And following the auto policy, which said that for new vehicles, the tariff on it would be 70%, and then the tariff on fairly used vehicles would be 35%, how did it affect your business? Did it affect your business in any way?
The 70% increasement of duty, the only area I can say it affect our business is because the average Nigerian, the average Nigerian camp that buy car from us, they don't buy like the way they used to buy because of the prices. When we bring car in, the car we sell for, like, for example, initially we used to sell this Corolla 2004 model for 1.4 million naira. But when the increment goes for 75%, the car go higher to 2 million naira. So, and as I said, the little Nigerian guys, men, women, that just start their life, that want to get family car, they go for Corolla, easily using car, you know, but they cannot afford it because of the tariff. The only help I can tell Nigerian government to do for us is to please reduce the tariff of the importation.
In a bid to address the deficit in the economy, the Nigerian government initiated the National Automobile Industry Development Plan with the aim to attract foreign direct investment, curtail the dependence on importation of vehicles, and promote local production of automobiles. The introduction led to an increase in import tariffs for vehicles, attracting international car manufacturers and leading to the resumption of small-scale vehicle assembly. Although Nigeria boasts of having the first made-in-Africa automobile brand, Innocent Motors, importers like Kunle still think it is not readily available for purchase.
If you are telling me about Nigerian-made car now, I can't tell you where the office works, and I cannot even tell you I've seen one of the car. I only see it on the internet or on television. So that's the only thing I can say. If the man in question can be able to produce the car much, for Nigerian to see, and he has a shop for it, a showroom for it, for people to come and have sex, to come and feel the car. I believe Nigeria, we patronize Nigerian-made car than bringing car from up. Because one, I believe it's going to be cheaper than buying from abroad. Second, you are not exchange naira to dollar to bring new car. So it means you are buying a Nigeria used car with our naira.
He spoke on ways the government can be of help.
So how do you think the government can support importation of vehicles and also rejuvenate the already existing manufacturing plants that are in the country but are not fully operational?
If Nigerian government can say, okay, today we want all the
potential and resource that we have here in Nigeria.
After Nigeria now, I don't think they know about what is called Ajaokuta. Even though they know about Ajaokuta, what did they produce? Nothing. We don't know. You understand? So government need to create awareness in everything they are doing so that the youth, okay, for example, some will say they went to school to go and read engineer, mechanical engineer. By the time they come out, nothing to show up on a mechanical engineer. They'll find themselves doing something else. And Ajaokuta still is there. So what's the company for? Is it not for the children that went to school to go and read engineer, to go there to go and do something? So everything still bounce back to government. If government really serious about the Ajaokuta stay, I believe Ajaokuta will produce a lot of things in this country. And many youth of this country will get something to do.
All right, thank you very much for having us at yours today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, madam.
Goal 10 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals speaks largely about eliminating inequality amongst countries and peoples. The United Nations clearly recognizes that businesses can also exacerbate inequality by being complicit in perpetrating biases and discrimination. The question, however, is how exactly does this resonate with Nigeria? Lagos is the most populous city in Nigeria and has millions of persons. Among these are little persons also, often found in Osborn in Ikoyi. They are trying to make a living as they grapple with inequality and discrimination because of their physical appearances. Wisdom Abba and his wife Joanne are one of the little persons who moved from other parts of the country into Lagos to make a living by getting employed despite their physical inadequacies. They say that in Lagos, they had hoped to win the battle against discrimination, but this fight, however, seems to be a lost one as they are constantly marginalized by some employers while hunting for jobs.
Sometimes Somebody will promise me at where I'm selling market. Best we drive car. We say we find work for me. I will pull up on that person. At last, the person will not. They will not find job because promise me. Many of them.
When I want to look for a job, they said they can't give me a job, that I'm too short. Then I should go.
This couple is not the only little person seeking an end to discrimination in job hunting. Nkubi and Shapali are celebrity broadcasters. They too say that they have had a painful taste of societal rejection.
I got called up for an interview. One of the management now walked up to me and told me that, look, I am sincerely very sorry. You are not the kind of person we are looking for.
My sister, you know, growing up to be like, Daddy, where do you get this thing from?
Though Shapali comes across as a very confident woman, she says growing up was torturous.
As I'm talking to you, I don't know my mom till now. She ran away because I am a dog.
She adds that her self-esteem was dealt a devastating blow for even thinking of marrying a tall man and begetting tall offspring, as her mother-in-law rejected her.
I had a relationship that the guy, you know, took me home to the mom. And I was there in their living room, seated, and the guy went to call the mom. The mom came and I was like, where? Sorry, oh my dear, sorry. Where is the wife? My son said he brought. And I was like, it's me. And like, stop joking now. How will it be you? My son came up to come that he brought somebody. You know, I was not accepted.
Bash and Iyatokpe are 9-to-5 persons. They reveal that they have also been treated with
You, Dua. Which hand do you want to take sweep here?
With only 12 years left to expunge inequality by 2030, only little is known if Nigeria will truly wipe out this menace. But Wisdom and his wife Joanne, Nkubi, Shapali, Bash and Iyatokpe continue to hope that someday they will be treated like every other human being. I am Mary Chinda for Plus TV Africa.
Hello and many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Here are the stories making the headlines. I am Ife Aaron. President Muhammadu Buhari has called on heads of anti-corruption agencies in Africa to adopt fresh measures that will prevent corrupt acts through risk assessment strategies. Mr. Buhari gave the advice on Monday at the State House Conference Center, Abuja, when he declared open a training program on corruption risk assessment, CIA, for heads and senior officials of anti-corruption agencies in the African Union. He said the training was organized at the instance of his administration as part of its support for the war against corruption in the continent. Mr. Buhari told the participants that a fight against corruption is a battle for the souls of the different countries in Africa and is a battle that must be won. The Nigerian president said he has implemented a lot of strategies to combat corruption, adding that the best way to eliminate the scourge is through prevention. While the People's Democratic Party (PDP) presidential campaign organization has condemned the alleged raid on the Abuja residence of two sons of the party's presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC) had reportedly raided the residence of Aliyu and Mustafa Abubakar early on Saturday morning. An action the PDP described as vicious, outrageous, dirty and reprehensible. A statement on Monday by the spokesman for the PDP campaign, Kola Olobondion, said the operatives of the EFCC unleashed violence on the home of Atiku's sons while the young men were away. The PDP further alleged that the EFCC's tactics is now to blackmail and frame up opposition leaders and others adverse to the President Buhari's re-election bid with spurious charges. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has described as false reports that its operatives at the weekend raided the Abuja residences of two sons of People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. The spokesman of the commission, Tony Orilade, who met the denial on Monday, advised journalists to get their facts right before going to press. He recalled that the press had last week reported that the commission froze the account of the PDP vice presidential candidate Peter Obi, a report he said was not true. Mr. Orilade said the EFCC had been on the trail of one of the sons of the former governor of Abia State, Ogonna Orji, through whom he said the father laundered funds belonging to Abia State. He said the commission had laid siege to a nightclub in Abuja where Ogbonna Orji had gone clubbing and only apprehended him around 5 a.m. on Monday morning when he was about entering his vehicle, a Range Rover. Orilade said also apprehended President of the Senate, Senator Bukola Saraki, and Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mr. Yakubu Dogara, on Monday said vote buying is a threat to the nation's democracy. Speaking at a public hearing in Abuja, they called for urgent action by stakeholders, especially security agencies, to check the menace before the 2019 general election. Saraki said the country was in a delicate situation as the entire world was looking forward to what would happen in the coming general election. On his part, Dogara described vote buying as the highest form of corruption. He said although undue influence of voters was a global phenomenon, the recent direct pricing and buying of votes as if in a market square is very disturbing. Well, candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, has criticized President Muhammadu Buhari for refusing assent to the 2018 Electoral Act as amended. Dr. Ezekwesili spoke to newsmen in Abuja, saying the presidency is trying to rig the upcoming general elections, thus its refusal to sign the bill, which many believe has approved electronic voting, expected to checkmate rigging.
We are having this conversation as an emergency call on the president to rethink his approach on this. If President Buhari has nothing to fear, he should simply sign that bill into an act. He fears that he has already lost the election, and he wishes to have an uneven playing field where they can determine all kinds of things about 2019 election. He will be resisted by the Nigerian people.
Well, ahead of the 2019 elections, stakeholders have expressed concern over the state of chaos and insecurity in the nation. This was the focus of the annual lecture held by the Alumni Association of the University of Nigeria. Our correspondent, Mary Chinda, reports.
It is less than 70 days to Nigeria's general elections. The need for African leaders to be held accountable by the rule of law is the focus of this year's annual lecture held by the University of Nigeria Alumni Association in Lagos.
In law, we lawyers talk about the rule of law. And the rule of law is actually the superstructure that determines what institutions are. The rule of law is the concept that the law is not a respecter of anybody, that the law is there and that all of us are subject to it no matter who you are. There is no bigger institution than the institution of the rule of law. It is that institution of the rule of law that ensures that if the president commits an offense that is against the Constitution, he will be impeached no matter the power he controls as president.
With over 90 political parties clamoring for various elective positions, stakeholders here express worry over the state of the nation and President Buhari's refusal to sign the electoral bill into law.
This electoral act is going to help the country. It's going to help us to define how election processes should take place, and which of course will make it almost free and fair in some degree. But if he's not going to sign it, then what are we talking about? It's like he's become a dictator or something.
Our democracy has not produced progress. What we have right now in Nigeria is a criminal capture of political parties.
If you ask me, the ruling party, they've not done
anything good for Nigerians of this moment, frankly speaking. We had so much hope in them when they were coming. They talked of change. Yes, there have been changes, but the changes have been for the worse.
We're saying, have we ever had strong institutions in this country? You know, we keep pondering over it for years. If we had strong institutions, some of our national enterprises, so to say, like the NITEL, NEPA, Nigerian Airways, wouldn't have gone the way they went.
There's a need for the citizens to make a demand for good governance. I made the point that we have too many governments in the country that don't deliver good governance.
Vote buying and all such nonsense.
And away from that, the federal government on Monday resumed talks with the leaders of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, over the ongoing strike in public universities. The university lecturers have been on strike since November 4, demanding for improved funding of universities and implementation of previous agreements with the government. The ASU delegation, led by its national president, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, has called attention to how far the world has come in the area of regard for basic human rights.
A right to life, a right to democracy, a right to social security, the right to play, the right to food and shelter for all, a right to education, and freedom of expression and freedom of thought. These are some of the human rights engrafted in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights by the United Nations in 1948.
For 70 years, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights has been a global beacon, shining a light for dignity, equality and well-being, and bringing hope to dark places. The rights proclaimed in the Declaration apply to everyone, no matter our race, belief, location, or other distinction of any kind. Human rights are universal and eternal. They are also indivisible. One cannot pick and choose among civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights.
And as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to celebrate the 70th year of this milestone of the Human Rights Declaration, a member of the League of Nigerian Journalists, Yakubu Mohammed, who x-rays Nigeria's journey towards the full adherence to the basic human rights, says Nigeria's government is over the years
in full soundness as they wish it to be. So yes, that we do not have these rights as a matter of right. We don't have them now because people can have 3 square meals in a day. Security agencies have not been up and doing to ensure that these rights are guaranteed in practice. While they are there in theory, you go to bed, you are not sure that you can sleep with your 2 eyes closed.
Well, the Hanukkah celebration, which is a celebration of light by the Jews and the Israelites, held its first ever celebration in Lagos. Here is more from our correspondent, Susan Jasper.
Hanukkah is the celebration of the Festival of Lights by the people of Israel between November and December every year. This celebration commemorates the deliverance of the Jews from their Greek-Syrian oppressors after the attack of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in the 2nd century BC.
Hanukkah is a very interesting miracle because it wasn't a situation where certain times Jewish people were persecuted, the evil people. They didn't want the Jews to practice the Torah. They took over the temple, and what they did was they didn't burn the temple down. They just came around and they knew that to desecrate, to make it no longer useful in the Jewish sense, all they had to do was break the seal. There was a holy seal on each barrel of oil, and they smashed the barrels of oil. And the miracle of Hanukkah was as follows. So when the Jewish people came back to the temple, they were able to find 1 jug which was untouched and remained pure. Now, this small jug of oil was naturally only able to last for 1 day, And God made a special, unbelievable miracle that this 1 jug of oil, which had the capacity to last for 1 day, lasted for 8 complete days.
Lagos was not left out as the first ever celebration took place at the Mega Plaza as part of the mission to spread the light all around the world.
We are lighting candles every year to celebrate that miracle. We also eat a lot of fatty oil fried food to symbolize the miracle of the oil and the lamp. And tonight we are celebrating it this way for the first time in Africa. And we're very happy. This is our way to appreciate Nigeria.
The Jewish community in Nigeria is experiencing significant growth, and the lighting of the menorah brings the Jewish community part of the celebration of oneness and light. Members of the Christian community were there to join in this celebration.
Christianity, Judaism, and even Islam all have the same foundations, from our father Abraham down to the patriarchs, and then eventually at the time of Jesus Christ.
The Hanukkah celebration, which is full of love, laughter, music, and oneness, is a clear indication that light always trumps darkness. Susan Jasper, Plus TV Africa.
Well, it's time for a quick break. Do stay tuned for more news when we return. Glad to have you back. European Union prolongs sanctions against President Joseph Kabila's chosen successor, Ramazani Chowdhury, just 2 weeks before a historic election in the DR Congo. This and other African stories in our African news package.
The European Union has prolonged sanctions against Congolese President Joseph Kabila's chosen successor, just 2 weeks before a historic election in the resource-rich Central African country. European Union headquarters said on Monday that travel bans and asset freezes will be renewed for a year against Democratic Republic of Congo's ruling party candidate Emmanuel Ramazani Shadary and 13 other people. Shadary was sanctioned by the European Union last year for obstructing DRC's electoral process and a crackdown against protesters angry over the long-delayed vote. The decision taken by European Union foreign ministers in Brussels could be reviewed in the light of and following the elections scheduled for December 23rd. It could be DRC's first peaceful democratic transfer of power. The decision fears that Kabila, who has ruled since 2001, will assert power behind the scenes if Shadary wins. Somali's MPs, about 100 of them, have backed a motion of no confidence against President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo. They accuse him of undermining the constitution by signing a secret deal, they say, to unite Somalia with Ethiopia and Eritrea. The next stage is for the Speaker to set a date for the debate in Parliament. Relations have tautened between the leaders of the three Eastern African nations, who have held a series of talks since Ethiopia's reformist Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was appointed in April. The World Health Organization says Ebola vaccinations will soon begin in South Sudan as the country is at a very high risk in the current outbreak based in neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. A statement says South Sudan's health minister will begin vaccinating some health workers and other frontline workers in the capital, Juba, on December 19th. No Ebola cases have been reported in South Sudan or any of the DRC's neighbors in this outbreak, which is now the second deadliest in history. Vaccinations began earlier in Uganda. More than 40,000 people have received the experimental but promising Ebola vaccine in the outbreak. The World Health Organization statement says more than 2,000 doses have been allocated to South Sudan. DRC's health minister says the outbreak has almost reached 5.
A continent on the move needs a bank on the move. By continually evolving to deliver greater speed, superior value, and ever more efficient, more responsible solutions. And by connecting entrepreneurs with opportunities globally, Access Bank is transforming lives and businesses across Africa and beyond. Get on board. Let's take tomorrow. Access Bank. Speed, service, security.
Glad to have you back. A Siberian policeman described as Russia's most prolific mass murderer in modern times has been given a second life sentence. We'll have details of this and more in our foreign package.
At least one person has been killed and hundreds of thousands left without power supply following a heavy snowstorm that swept through the U.S.'s southeastern states. A state of emergency has been declared in North Carolina, with some areas recording as much as 0.5 meters of snow over the weekend. A search is underway for a driver whose vehicle was found in a river. Meanwhile, thousands of flights were also cancelled across the region. The snowstorm was expected to move off the coast on Monday, although the National Weather Service warned it would continue to be a dangerous system. State police said that almost 60 crashes were recorded, with the number rising to 500 in North Carolina between midnight and 11 a.m. local time on Sunday. And moving on to the latest update from the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, "I can't breathe." Those were the last words uttered by the journalist during his murder at the Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul, and that's according to a source briefed on the investigation into the killing of the Washington Post columnist. The source, who has read a translated transcript of an audio recording of Khashoggi's last moments, said it was clear that the killing on October 2 was the execution of a premeditated plan. Records noted the sound of Khashoggi's body being dismembered by a saw, as the alleged perpetrators were advised to listen to music to block out the sound. Turkish officials also believe that some calls were placed to senior figures in Riyadh, briefing them on the progress made. This is the fullest account of the transcript that has so far been published. And lastly, on the foreign scene, French President Emmanuel Macron has met union leaders and employers groups on Monday before addressing the nation in the evening following increasingly violent and radicalized protests against his leadership. Leaders of employers and workers' union, both chambers of parliament and local elected officials, have left after meeting with Macron to talk about the Yellow Vests crisis as the country awaits his first public statement since the latest wave of riots on Saturday. The president has drawn criticism for his silence in public over the violence in Paris, with opponents accusing him of returning the Élysée Palace into a bunker. Ministers hope his address will placate the Yellow Vest, whose revolt poses the most formidable challenge to his 18-month administration to date.
Up next is business news.
Quarter. I spoke with Johnson Chukwu of Kari Asset Management as he shared his thoughts on the result.
I believe an improvement over the previous quarter GDP. Second quarter of this year, GDP was only 1.5%. We see an improvement to 1.81%. But even compared to the third quarter of last year, it's still an improvement from 1.17% that we reported in the third quarter of 2017. But having said that, I think that's so consoling that the GDP growth rate of 1.81% we recorded in the third quarter of this year was largely driven by the non-oil sector, which grew by 2.32% against the oil sector that actually contracted by 2.91%. So it's actually positive that the non-oil sector has begun to drive the GDP performance of the country, unlike the previous periods when it was largely an oil sector driven performance.
And on the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the markets closed on a negative note in the new week as the consumer goods sector recorded a massive drop, with the all-share index plunging downwards by 0.82 basis points to close at 30,614.73. Equity capitalization deepened to 11.176 trillion naira and total deals stood at 3,193. Leading the list of top gainers was Forte Oil, which gained 1 naira 15 kobo, a 6.39% rise from its last share price close. Okumu Oil also gained 1 naira, a 1.39% rise from its previous close. Nestle shared a whopping 64 naira from its last share price close, while Mobil recorded a 14 naira 80 kobo loss. Diamond Bank led the list of top trades as it recorded a volume of 44.920 million shares, valued at 45.596 million naira. And on sectorial indices, NSE Insurance traded negative as it dropped by 0.74%. NSE Oil and Gas dropped by 1.19%, NSE Banking dropped by 0.39%, NSE Consumer Goods dropped by 2.32%, and NSE Industrial also dropped by 0.25%. And that's all on business news on this hour. Still ahead on Plus TV Africa is our roundup on entertainment and sports. We'll be back in a moment.
In entertainment, according to Nigerian singer Timaya, regardless of background and social class, anyone can attain success. He gave an emotional speech at the just concluded Hennessy Artistry, asking the youth to stay true to their goals and remain passionate. The singer further used himself as a point of reference, stating that if a plantain seller like him can attain success, then success is attainable by anyone. Timaya also used the platform to thank all of his fans as he attributed his success to their continuous support over the years. Still on entertainment, Panda singer, designer, while performing in Kenya, was lifted up by fans during a stage performance. However, in a twist of events, the rapper raised an alarm
from attending its matches pending the conclusion of investigations into alleged racist abuse of Raheem Sterling. A group of Chelsea supporters were captured on cameras shouting at Sterling as they attempted to retrieve the ball, and they were deemed racial slurs. Manchester City has welcomed Chelsea's decision to suspend the supporters while the investigations are ongoing. Chelsea, the Football Association, and the Metropolitan Police officers have all confirmed that they are investigating the incident. And still talking English football, Tottenham Hotspur's defensive duo of Kieran Trippier and Sergi Aurier are out of Tuesday's UEFA Champions League clash against Barcelona, having been left out of Spurs' travel to Spain. Both right-backs have been struggling with groin injuries. Kyle Walker-Peters, who signed a new 5-year deal with the club on Monday, is expected to start at right-back against Barcelona, while Eric Lamela, who suffered thigh injury weeks back, has recovered fully and is available for selection. With Barcelona already through and guaranteed top spot of the group, Tottenham Hotspur need to match Inter Milan's results against PSV Eindhoven to stand a chance of qualifying for the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League. And that's it on Sports Updates. I'm Samson Oloide.
Well, that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news and updates, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We're on channel 308 on Star Times. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines. Do join us again. I am Ife Arono. Have a nice time.
welcome to Africa on the Move in partnership with DW. I am Fumi Nwajefe. Today, we'll be focusing on how people on the continent are taking care of their environment. In Kenya, someone initiated the plan of trash for cash.
Every Monday, Jeffrey Baluzi, age 26, combs the beach as part of a cleanup crew from the Watamu Marine Association. Each time, they pick up about 4 big sacks of plastic waste. They're paid the equivalent of €4 a day. That means they earn €16 a month. That's not very much, but they're all happy to do this work. Jeffrey has been part of the crew since its inception.
My main intention was just to change the environment itself, because since the environment was different here, there was a lot of taka, and this was dangerous even to the sea creatures. So that's what brought me here, in fact.
They bring the trash to a recycling center run by the organization, not far from the beach. Shakushi Lewa helps sort the trash. He lives on the grounds of the recycling center. They separate hard and soft plastic. Part of it is given to local artists and women's associations, which make flip-flop sandals or window screens to stop insects from getting into houses. The hard plastic is the organization's cash cow. It brings in the equivalent of $7,000.
The project has been so beneficial on me and the project itself, because up to date, the taka we used to hide on the beach are now reduced. On the village, the same.
Thanks to the initiative, around 25 people in Watamu are earning steady money. Shakushu was unemployed for a long time until the project hired him. He lives for free on the grounds of the recycling center. He mixes old paper, water, and wood chips to make briquettes for burning. The business idea earns him the equivalent of €100 a month from garbage.
When
the people from the community collect those plastics and bring them here, they get money for the plastic. Jeffrey says the biggest challenge is to make clear to the community that recycling plastic is much more than just a short-term money-making project.
The challenge we do have is that, because people say, okay, I can join with you working there, but what are you going to give me? You know? So you have to pay him. Instead of volunteering, they don't volunteer. And they do have to volunteer, because this is their country. The environment belongs to them too.
The Watamu environmental activists want to do more to educate the community. Jeffrey wants to make people understand that recycling garbage is meaningful. It looks like he's already come a long way.
If you ask me, I think they should legislate that all bottling companies should recycle all their PET bottles. Recycling could create a revolution. Still in Kenya, a former banker recycles plastics and create new products which will reduce the cutting of trees and in the end, save the forest.
Nicholas Wambua is busy marking the borders of his farm outside Nairobi. Usually farmers here use wooden posts for their fences, but Nicholas has bought a new product.
Compared to the normal poles, the lifespan of this one is longer than the normal poles, so I prefer this one. It is reducing the destruction of forest, because now you find we are lessening the cutting of the trees in our country. So I am for it, because our ecosystem is being controlled.
On the outskirts of Nairobi, the posts are produced by a new, innovative company. EcoPost is the brainchild of Lorna Ruto, a former banker. She came up with an ingenious way of getting rid of the city's plastic waste by making eco-friendly posts from recycled plastic.
All this plastic waste has been collected from various dump sites, some streets, and even homes, people's homes. So we bring them here. This is the first step. They're flooded from the truck. Then we store them until we get a good quantity. From there, we're able to take them into processing.
Every month, EcoPost gives 40 to 50 tons of plastic waste new life as building material. In its first year of operation, it produced more than 5,000 posts, removing hundreds of tons of plastic waste from the environment.
crush the sawdust and we mix it with the plastic and we make very good aesthetic and quality posts that can be used even for now building. It's an alternative to timber, so by so doing we're able to save a lot of trees, and we hope to save the 2% forest cover that is remaining in Kenya.
Kenya has a massive problem with deforestation. Much of the wood is used as building material. EcoPost has already created almost 40 full-time positions and hundreds of casual jobs.
So it is not only in Kenya that people are making money from waste. In Gabon, one man is separating and recycling waste.
They have become an established team. Several times a week, men from Global Services come over to the market in Labarene, Gabon, and sort the enormous amount of waste. Organic waste goes into the pink bags and plastic in the blue. This is all done under the watchful eye of CEO Firmin Makaya. Unfortunately, the people here are used to just throwing their garbage on the street. Many simply don't understand why they should think about waste separation and recycling. That's why we have to explain to them the importance of this over and over again. Not only to the residents, but also to the city administration. Labarene may be small, but for years it's had a big waste problem. The city waste management exists only on paper. Businessman Makaya took action. The 37-year-old founded his own private waste collection company, rented a small office, and established a team of 8 strong men. Now they are the stars of Labarene. It's very nice to see what they're doing here. A clean environment helps everybody. We used to really have too much garbage here, but since the people of Global Services started their operations, you can see a difference. These 2 tricycles transport the garbage daily to the depository on the outskirts of Labarene. The company purchased them with its initial capital, which it won in a startup competition. This is the most unpleasant part of the work for the men of Global Services. Here is where the waste is burned. This, of course, is not good. It's not good for the health of the people who work here. And it's also not good for the environment that we actually want to protect. Now the businessman is working together with his wife on the next step of his garbage project. They want to construct a recycling plant in the jungle of Labarene. The plastic waste will be mixed with sand to create a cement-like brick. The mass is well suited for road construction. And the land has already been purchased and cleared. What's missing now is only money. Of course, it's all a difficult and lengthy process. To be honest, I have some...
A 16-year-old in Tanzania holds a weekly show focused on the environment.
She's determined, ambitious, and has come a long way. Valentine Waku is a scientist and a staff member at the International Centre for Tropical Agriculture, or CIAT, in Nairobi. In the first year of her long-term project, Valentine Waku already discovered 3 suitable kinds. Her results are soon going to be implemented by the farmers.
Especially this being a new crop, we want to tell them that you can have a good yield with this and this variety. So we will propose that these are the varieties that are doing well in Africa.
From the lab to the fields. The Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organisation works hand in hand with the researchers. The farmers from Machakos have been taking part for 1 year. They get tips on planting and harvesting a particular type of bean. Because of the training we got, the work is now reduced for us. Now we always uproot the weeds and then use them for mulching.
We are proud because we're getting good harvests. It's not like before, because we were taught how to plant, and together with my group, we're applying what we learned.
The farmers get to put the surplus from their harvest on the market or sell to processing companies. This is also a result of the project.
Our role, in short, has been select which varieties can go for industrial processing, the pre-cooked, train the stakeholders, including the farmers, on how to grow them and to aggregate them.
For the scientists at CIAT, sustainability is important. Director Robin Burukara knows this as well. The institute now has the plasma of all the bean germs known across the world.
We have the germplasm, there's the research we can do, but we work very closely together with our national research systems and then work closely together with agents which can support dissemination so that the farmers get the product.
The bean project has been ongoing for 1 year and is soon coming to an end. Valentine Wako is happy about its success. She also researched the beans. Now with quinoa, the goal remains the same.
This food security crisis in Africa is ongoing song. So with especially what I'm involved in the quinoa, if it's successful and we see that it can do well in Africa, it will really improve the livelihoods of the downtrodden people.
Valentine Waku's quinoa project has been planned for 5 years. The scientist wishes that the farmers would quickly profit from her results and that quinoa would successfully be planted in Africa.
Imagine if we could educate young Africans very early about recycling waste and taking care of the environment. We would have a cleaner continent. But trust me, it's not too late to act. We'll take a break and then we'll be right back.
Olúwaṣẹ́gun fún mi. Ó ṣé mo dúpẹ́ dúpẹ́. Gbogbo ilé lẹ fi tó gift. Mo rí ikọ̀ tún ni. Mo sọ fún ẹ lójoojúmọ́ pé gbogbo tó ń ṣe fún mi, ọmọ á ṣe fún ẹ nílọ́po. Abiyamọ ayé, abiyamọ ọ̀run, wọ́n súre. Ìbàjẹ́ kéré ó tóbi kò ní kàn ẹ́. Ọmọ òní ní kò gbé tiwa kò ń gé jẹ. Ọmọ òní tí ẹ lọ síbi tó ò lérò. Ní gbogbo ọjọ́ ayé ẹ ò ní rí bi. Bí wọ́n bá ń pín wàhálà ìdààmú, ò tiẹ̀ ní rówó rà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, ò ní kábàámọ̀. Ẹni tó máa bá ṣe tó máa kó bá ìgbé ayé ẹ kò ní bẹ́ẹ̀ rí, wọn náà ní bá rí. Ọmọ adùn ẹnu, àbùkù ò ní kàn ẹ́ o. Ayé ò ní rí ẹ mú o. Mo sọ fún ẹni tinútinú tó kù. Lọ́lá ọyọ̀ méjèèjì. Mi ń kọ́. Ṣé ìwọ ti rókun tó gbẹ̀rí? O ti rí ọ̀sà kó gbẹ̀rí? Kò lè gbẹ́ ń bì. Àmímà. Àwọn olè ń sọ̀rọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀. Bẹ́ẹ̀ni àtàwọn ọ̀rẹ́ mi. Àwọn ọ̀rẹ́ ó yá fi sí spíkà. Wọ́n ń gbọ́ yín. Ní ẹ̀bùn ńlá tọ́mọ mi gbé wá fèmí yìí. Ọlọ́run á ràn yín lọ́wọ́, ẹ̀yin náà lè ṣerú ẹ̀ pápá.
Get 10 times your recharge value to call and browse anyhow. Recharge with *220 star the pin hash to enjoy this offer. Available to new and existing subscribers.
Mr. Anansa, èmi ń gbàdúrà, ìwọ ń polówó ọjà, ìwọ náà borí ẹ̀ wá kó wá gbàdúrà. Bẹ́ẹ̀ ni, á dáa fún ẹ. Ṣé orí bó ti ń tajà fẹ́ lòmíì? Àwọn máa sìn ìwọ náà àdìrú wà dìgbà, ayé àdára, ò ní dààmú.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Welcome back. So in our next story, we are taught not to take the fresh air we breathe for granted.
These volunteers are about to learn a lot about the benefits of fresh air. Brice Delagneau is the activist behind the tree planting campaign. The meeting place is no coincidence. It's the epicenter of exhaust emissions in this city of nearly 5 million. We're amazed that many more people came to participate in the reforestation campaign than we expected. Banco Forest is just outside the Ivorian commercial capital, Abidjan. It's clearly visible from the highway, but many urban residents have never been here before. Brice studied environmental management in Abidjan, then founded his own organization. With this campaign, he wants Abidjan residents to understand that Banco Forest is the city's source of oxygen. This is a large metropolis. There are so many cars. The ones you see here in the city are usually bad for the environment. They're 10, 15, or even 20 years old. Sometimes even older than that. Without Banco Forest, the air in Abidjan would probably be much worse. Recent studies show that people already breathe in 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide here every day. With its abundant vegetation and rare tree species, the forest exudes a kind of magic. Part of it remains untouched and has been designated a national park. But many trees are being cut down outside the protected area. In 2009, this entire space was a rainforest. Today, it's full of residential buildings and factories. There's only one thing to do to save part of the cleared area: plant more trees. Participants plant various kinds of trees, including makore, nyangon, and tiama. These volunteers say the air is clean and refreshing, and healthy. The funds for this campaign come from an annual environmental conference. More than 70 new trees have been planted just today. To assess the impact of his efforts, Brice returns to the rainforest. Looking at this natural beauty, I would like every Ivorian to get involved and preserve it and stop cutting down trees. They should be protected. The same goes for the whole environment. Everyone should come to this space so they can learn how to love nature. Brice Delagneau has been able to inspire more than 130 volunteers with his initiative. He's also taken his campaign to neighboring Burkina Faso and Ghana.
If we knew how valuable trees are to the air we breathe, I doubt we'll cut down a single tree. So from planting trees, we go to the eco-warriors protecting their land.
In the remote technology,
we hate it. We don't like to see the trees cut down like this.
Ezekiel Filippo is one of the Hadz's forest guards who patrol the area looking for signs of damage. His team uses GPS satellite tracking to collect evidence of the destruction.
We use tools to record where we have been on patrol, and we take pictures. If we come across an area where someone has destroyed trees, we take a picture on the GPS device and it records the location.
The problem is the competition for this land. Other tribes need space for farming and cattle grazing, and in places that means the natural habitat is completely destroyed.
You can see the state of it. It is devastating. The way they are farming this land. Now where are the Hadza people going to live?
When I was a child, all of this was thick forest. There were lots of animals, and this area was especially good for collecting honey. It hurts my soul to see it now.
To stop the destruction, it is now illegal to cut down trees on Hadza land. And where the patrols find damage, they can arrest or report the offenders, who will face a fine.
When it happened that there is someone establishing maybe settlement or a piece of farm or a boma, that is an illegal issue. So the Walinzi Wajadi or village game scout, using GPS picture to prepare the report that will be sent to the village governments to take a legal step against this issue because it is not allowed.
The project is funded by the Global Carbon Credit Scheme, where businesses offset their emissions by contributing money to projects that reduce carbon. The villages are given payments twice a year of thousands of dollars. And the patrols also work with other tribes in the area to voice their concerns about the environment. There are now just under 1,000 Hadza people left in this area, thought to be among the last hunter-gatherers in the world.
This, everything you can see below me here, is the land of the Hadza people. This is where we live. This is where we get our meat and our honey. This is what we call home. I feel very happy when I see how we have looked after this beautiful land. Before, when I saw the land being destroyed, I hated it. But now that I see it being protected, I feel very happy.
Thank you for watching Africa on the Move in partnership with DW. See you next week. I am Fumi Unwajefe.